Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's session of GEM. I'm excited to have everybody here with us. Excited to have our speaker for today. So I want to get started and be mindful of everybody's time and just jump in to the questions. So here we go. Okay, so Jill, thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us for today's GEM session.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we kick it off with a moment to brag about yourself. Just tell everyone about what you were involved with during your time at BMCC.
Okay, wow, that's quite a lot. I was in the impact program as a mentee, then as a mentor. I was involved with the Center of Career Development. They had a new program, I think, the Career Explorers. I was in BLA, I was in SLS, student government. I was president of the club. I was in USS, College Council. I mean, I was doing a lot. I did a lot. I even did a lot of uni programs, I think two. One that you referred me to, which actually got me to go in to get into another one. The how do they call that one again? The New York Senate project, and then I had an internship during my time there at the senator's office. I mean, I did quite a lot of different things at the same time. I was also I was also in the Plus program with you. I think that's when I first met you. Yes, I mean, for sure. That's what I can remember
All right, yeah, you definitely named a lot of different things. So what have you been up to since you left BMCC? Because I know there's still even more to talk about.
now. Okay.
What else have you been doing since you left BMCC? And also,
Since I left,
where do you go to school? What do you study?
yes. So now I am at City College studying political science, and I am at City College. I am in two fellowships. One is called the Colin Powell Fellowships in leadership. Another is the New York Leaders Fellowship. I am student success guide, which is basically like a mentor. I'm also in the Trinity GI Incubator, uh, which stands for Diverse Equity and Diversity, Equity and Inclusion. I am a member of the CUNY Board of Trustees Committee on Governance, and I'm also with some friends that I met at the MCC. I'm also in an organization called BPAD, and I am the program administration manager. So that's like the biggest highlights.
All right, you mentioned BBAD. What does that stand for? What does that group do?
Okay. So basically, BPAD stands for Building a Better African Diaspora. So what we noticed, not just from our time at BMCC, but also generally looking around, is that the African community is I mean, there is that perception people have African community which isn't actually real or 100% accurate, and we wanted to shift the mentality and also kind of help educate the actual community, right? So, educate on entrepreneurship, educate on leadership, having workshops where we invite people to learn about what the what what it is what it is what it means to be African, right? And we have different workshops around focused on different teams, so it's quite interesting.
It sounds interesting. I know it's interesting. So, all right. So let's talk about leadership. So, who is someone you admire as a leader, and why do you admire them?
Hmm, interesting. So I won't answer directly. What I would say is, if you had told me this like 5 years, 2 years ago, actually, I would have given you a big name, right? But right now, I would say so. Her name is Ken Ejo. She's the senior philanthropy officer at Planned Parenthood. So why did I say her? Because I figured out the time that I mean, I want someone I look up to be someone that I relate, right? And I got really to meet her around 3 weeks ago, just listening to her story and why she started to get involved in public leadership, right? And just making me realize that we're very similar. And she has a trajectory that I won't say imitate, but I am interested, in. And she's also such a very kind person and a very passionate person. Like, I don't know, sometimes I think I am passionate, but she's extremely passionate about what she does.
And what was the name of that person again?
Ken, Ijo.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I definitely wanted to look it up. So, all right. So going along with leadership,
Yes.
what is one lesson that you learned during your time as a student leader at BMCC?
Huh. One lesson. Okay. Take care of yourself as much as you can. I think when you're a student, especially when you're a student leader, there are so many things you're interested in, right? And you want to do so much for people that you tend to forget about yourself. And that happened to me at the point when I was at dentistry, because I was not only was I in student government with all the drama that was going on, but I was also involved in different things at the same time. And, and also, and at the same time, I was a full-time student, right? So trying to juggle all those responsibilities at the point, I because of how passionate I was, I used to put myself 100% in all of those. And at the point was this realization that I I forgot about myself, right? And I had a moment where my body basically broke down, and I had to stop for a minute and say, okay, what is the most important thing for me right now? What do I need to, to do now? And what can wait? Right? And making sure that I take care of myself at least an hour or 10 minutes a day where I am by myself, taking care of myself and just breathing.
I heard you say the world can wait. And then the last thing you said, you're just breathing. Just breathing. Don't you breathe? What do you mean by breathing?
I mean, what I mean by breathing in there is act as if everything around you has shut down, right? And you just take your time to be with yourself and to actually don't think about anything else but you.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure. So I'm gonna say if you get that in the chat, please shout it out. Like I get it, or like I need to do that, or I do that, because that's so important. Thank you for sharing that. So we're gonna go along with advice. So knowing what you know now, what advice would you give to yourself before you were a student leader? So the you before you got involved in all those things, what would you want to tell that version of you?
I would like to say nothing is that important. You know, there's always an issue that's going to come up, but you have to learn to prioritize. And you are, as much as you may think that you are, I would say that this thing is as important as it may appear to be. There are 100 people out there that are doing something about it. Right? There are people that are working towards what you are working towards. Right? So take time to make a list of your priorities. This is what I want to tackle now, and this is how I'm going to do it, and this is how much time I'm going to allocate to this. Right, and do it with every different task you have, so that you don't overwhelm yourself.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I just lost you.
You lost me?
Minute. Yeah, that was my fault. Here we go. I will edit this out. Here we go. All right, cool. All right, thank you for that. So, okay, we're going to talk about GEM and GEMs now. And so this program is called GEM, and a gem is a sparkly, precious stone. So what would you say was your sparkly moment or your highlight as a student leader at BMCC?
My highlight, I think working with
Oh, wait,
students.
hold on. I'm sorry. I don't know what is happening. It's Friday. That's what it is. Hold on. Okay. Yep, go ahead.
I think working with students generally. So I remember there was one time when I doubted my um, motivations. Um, and there's this one student that came to me. It was very frightening because she was in the nursing program, and those that are in the nursing program, they know how strict they are in the program. And she was about to be removed from the program. She spent the entire winter coming there back and forth, but nothing was like push her, and she was like, "You need to face it." And just taking time to listen to her story and going with her to offices that we had to go to advocate on her behalf made me realize that this is what I want to do. Right, this is something I want to continue doing as I move on. That moment for me, and just to say, I was at the point where I was about to leave a lot of leave a lot of my responsibilities because I was like, why am I even doing this now, right now, at this specific moment? But spending that time with her and reinstating her in the program just 3 days after she had left me, made me realize that yes, I want to be here. This is what I want to do. And I stayed, I continued, I persevered, and here I am today.
Wow. So you were questioning it, and then this happened, and you said, nope, this is it. Wow. That's
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the student, but I'm glad that that happened, so you can, it built up your motivation again.
It did.
So talking about gem, we're going to continue with that. So when you pick up a gem,
Mhm.
sometimes you can see your reflection in the stone. So if you could please share with us a situation that made you reflect on your actions as a leader and caused you to become more self-aware. So something that happened while you were a student leader that made you reflect on, how you act as a leader.
Oh, I think you should know this. When I was in student government, I think it was a time where they needed to be someone that was very, I would say, other inclined, right? And at that moment, took up, I, I picked up that responsibility. And at a certain moment, it reached a point where I was more other inclined towards people I was working with than 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 any other thing, right? And I decided to put aside the interpersonal relationships we have, and I think just and something with me is I welcome feedback regardless of who gives the feedback or how harsh it may be. I think the harsher the better for me because I like people being real with me. And a lot of times I used to go to people's offices and be like, okay, what do you think about what I'm doing now or the relationship we have now? And a lot of people will tell me that if they can feel they can speak to me because I have this facade, right? Because I carry myself this way. And from that, I started realizing, okay, there needs to be a shift in my mentality. I need to adapt I need to learn to adapt to different situations. And yeah, I think from that moment onwards, just knowing how to balance, when you're in a workspace with people, learn how to balance, okay, when do you have to be strict and when do you have to bring in that I would say that friendly and very approachable personality of yours. So just learning how to adapt, how to balance those two personalities, I think has been a game changer for me now. And I get along with people way better than I used to do before.
Wow, okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, we did get, I got a question to me about your time in student government. So I'm gonna get into those questions, but this is the last question from the predetermined questions. So if you
Yes.
could drop a gem of knowledge here for today's group, what is one piece of advice? And you've given a lot, but what is one thing you want to give to GEM members here today?
Okay. Um, Something one of my mentors told me is as community college students, just as public institutions, as students studying at public institutions, we tend to um, underestimate ourselves so much, right? There's this level of confidence people studying at at very special institutions have that we don't have, and because of how they were taught, right? But something that we don't realize we have is our living experiences, right? I've been in rooms with people that seem to be smarter than me because they have a bigger grammar or a bigger vocabulary, but that at the end of the day, they actually weren't. They were just full of grammar, full of vocabulary, and full of confidence, right? So learn how to cultivate that confidence for yourself and carry it in every room you get into moving forward because it's extremely important. And know your story, own your story, learn how to tell your story to people. I, I mean, storytelling is one of your biggest your your biggest weapons you have. You may be intelligent, you may be smart, book smart, whatever you can say, but if you are not able to tell your story in an impactful and a very I won't say emotional because I would say impactful I would and very relatable way. There's just so much people you are going to be able to reach, right? The list is going to be really short. So learn how to do that and do that with confidence.
Thank you for sharing that gem of knowledge. So we have a few questions that were sent to me. So the first is, do you have an ultimate career goal, or is this something, is this something at some point in the next few years you want to accomplish, or is this something like this is the thing that I want to do?
So actually I'm preparing for law school right now. It's crazy. But yes, I want to be a lawyer. I don't know what specific type of law I want to study yet. But what I know is in 10 years from now, I want to own my own um, organization in my country. And I've already started the work on that. I've already started the work because I come from a country and a community in a country where people don't have access to education. A lot of people don't have access to education. People are discriminated on because of their ethnic backgrounds. And I have been in so many ways. And I think that if you can give back, even as little as your ability allows to, just do it, right? And my goal is to have that nonprofit not only work on providing financial assistance to parents, but also help shaping, help to shape policies that will impact positively I would say, the educational system in my
Thank you. So you mentioned your country.
country.
What
Yes.
country?
So I come from a country called Cameroon in Central Africa.
Great, thank you. All right, so we heard it here. So we heard your goals and your plans. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. So also, you had talked about like taking care of yourself. So the question is, yeah, about like self-care. Like where did you go, or was there anyone that helped you to figure out what worked best for you or what you liked, or how did you figure that out?
So actually, I was lucky that the pandemic happened because I had a whole year of trying to figure out what self care meant for me. I experienced different things. I experienced meditation. I was like, nope, it's not working. I experienced yoga. I said, okay, I'm not gonna try it again. After the first try, I started going out for walks. It was great, but it wasn't doing anything specific for me. So something I do a lot now is just it's writing down in my mind. It can be just regular writing, can be short story writing, can be anything. I write it down and I just express myself. I found out that just after I've put put in words what my feelings are, I feel extremely at peace, right, and very relaxed.
All right, thank you for sharing that. So, all right, so there were some questions about student government, about your time in student government.
Okay.
And you mentioned you took on the role of being the one who created order or kept the order. And then you also talked about interpersonal relationships. So do you have any specific things specific things that you can share, because we have some club officers in the room here, we have some
Mhm.
SGA members, and so like when you were vice president, which I guess that's part of the job, is you do have to do have some order, some specific tips about how to balance them, because that's not always easy, balancing the task and the relationships. Anything that you can share with anyone, and even if they're not in clubs or SGA, this is something that you can use anywhere.
Yes, I think first of all, the way in which you carry yourself when you enter in a room is very important, right? When you work with people, especially people you work with for an entire year and you see every day, it can get very confusing sometimes when responsibility is in the middle. So something I always did is they let them know that okay, uh, when it comes to work things related, these are my policies. This is how I do things. Okay. Now you have I so especially let's give for example tracking everybody's office hours and making sure that they did their office hours. I let them know if you are not able to do your office hours, no problem. But beforehand, make sure to email me, send me an email. Okay, send me an email and let me know in advance. If you don't send me an email, let me know in advance. These are going to be the consequences. And that is not me saying it. This is this document saying it. Because this document says this. So don't come after me afterwards because I'm not the one. What I do is I try as much as I can to accommodate you, but I can't accommodate you and put and then at the end of the day put a lot of work on myself because I'm also working here with you and I'm also a full-time student. So we have to be very conscious of each other's time. And I think from that moment on, that realization that yes, we work together, yes, you students, yes, you are friends sometimes, but when it has to be professional, let's keep it professional at least at that sense, and then you can be friends afterwards. You can hang out, you can spend time together. And something I always made a priority for me to do is at least give out some time to everyone. I would say once every 2 weeks, I would speak with everyone. They want to know that it's a meeting. It's a way for me to know how they're feeling, how they're feeling, or whatsoever. But just that me asking them how are you feeling, how is the environment here for you in this office? What do you think we can do better to to accommodate your needs? You know, just doing those little like informal meetings and discussing with them without even them knowing that okay, I'm trying, you know, to collect data. um, Made them feel more comfortable in the office and made them feel more comfortable.
That sounds like a lot of work. Something that you brought up, and I was muted, but I laughed. I literally LOL'd. You mentioned that you were operating in a way that a document said. Could you go a little bit more into that? Because I think, again, there's club officers, there's SGA members here, but also I think even in a work environment. So I think specifically for that situation, what was uh, the document and why did you do it that way? And I laughed because I remembered having conversations about doing just that and how important that was. So if you could please share that with everybody, why did you do that?
So we had our constitution that told us that we needed to have at least 10 hours a week, right? And then we had our bylaws that went a little bit more specific into trying to accommodate people's needs by saying, okay, you can have a certain number of hours during the weekend or at night, right? But you can't exceed this number of hours. And if you don't come, and if you don't show up for your hours or have your full 10 hours at the end of the week, then there are these consequences, right? And a lot of times people can come at you specifically because you've been following what was said in those documents, and they attack you personally instead of you know, instead of attacking what the document said, because that isn't you saying it, that is the document saying it, right? So by you saying, okay, this is not me saying it, but this is the document saying the document says it, you are shifting the responsibility from yourself because it is not your decision, it's the decision of the document. The document was made by the whole, so by the group. So it is not only so it is ours. The decision is ours. It's all of the members and the person as well standing in front of me. So that was basically the whole thing behind
Thanks. So another question about your time in student government. And so our speaker last week talked about being a club president when
it.
we went from in-person to virtual. So in spring 2020. So that was a club president. So now, what position did you hold? And if you could just share a little bit about how that transition went, what were some things that you had to do? Because I remember, but a lot of people here, they actually, no one was there except for you and I. So so what
I think
position were you holding when that happened? And what were some changes that you had to make?
so. I think that was around the time I was elected vice president of student government in spring 2020, and I mean there was so we we all went online, and as I said, we tried to make sure that with everything that happened, um, health wise around us, all the panic and everything, we tried to make sure that we let our members know. When I say we, I'm talking about the executives, so four of us, that we let our members know that we are there for them and we are listening to them, right? And by weekly weekly check-ins. So you, for example, assign ourselves list of members to check up on every week, and just have a conversation with them. How are you feeling? How's everything going? Do you need anything? Is there anything you will need? And something we also did is having with the for us mainly for club officers, having games games days where just have them come in, play trivia with us, relax, and get out of their head. I mean, it was an extremely stressful time for a lot of us. And the feedback we got from them was really helpful for them at that moment because they felt like they hadn't lost that community they had when they were in person. And it was just a moment for them to relax and have fun and just enjoy with other student leaders.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I remember you're digging into my memory now too, because I remember the hangman, the in the Zoom and with club officers. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for sharing all that. So the final question is about your major. And so you talked about, you weren't sure, like there was a time when you were questioning your your career path. But let's go even before that. What made you choose political science in the first place?
Okay. So when I was so when I was in high school in my country, I think the second year of high school around, there was a major event that happened. It was a huge riot, a huge protest that led to buildings being burned down by fire. There was fire. There was like guns, bullets everywhere. And I remember that day I was in the classroom taking an exam, and the administration came and told us you all have to get out and go back home. At that moment, I was like, okay, let me just go and run. But I reflected on this when I arrived home. Arrived home. We were all children running out to us to our different homes that were about 15 to 30 minutes away from school. In a situation where there were gunshots, people were being beaten by the police. There was building turned down by fire. Something could have happened to any one of us at that specific moment. From that day, I started watching the news, uh, keep up with so the political news, not only in the country but also with our neighboring countries. And that was phenomenal what that was happening, what was going on in different African countries at the same time as well. And I was like, okay, there is something that needs to be done. There is something that there's a mentality shift that needs to happen because I don't understand why governments aren't more proactive into resolving people's issues. Because that riot happens, the reason why it happened was years and years of the government just neglecting and putting aside people's complaints, just sitting in their offices, having meaningless discussions, and not acting when they have the chance to act. I mean, from there, I started getting involved in organizations. I listened closely to the news, and when I came to the US, it was ironic because the first person I met and who was my mentor at the time ended up being president of the student government. So that was so for me. That was okay. Why is it that all the people I meet lead our student leaders engaged in the college? Right? Why is it that every single person I met when I arrived at the BMCC were in some way, shape, or form involved in leadership programs? They were so involved in student government. And for me, it just clicked. I was like, okay, this is for me. This are my people. Right? This is the people the universe attracts me to. And this is where I have to go. This is where I have to be, and that's where I get. That's where I went, and I haven't stopped going there. But at the end of the day, I was studying community communication study just because at the time they didn't have 40%. But I'm pissed off with they have it now. They waited for me to leave.
That's all right. Yes, we have a political science program. Um, but also, get the communication. I think that, what did you find that was helpful for you?
Actually, yes, it was really helpful. There was a class that I took. It was creative writing. When I had my internship at the state senator's office, one of the things they asked me to do was respond to constituents' emails and concerns, but not as a uh, not as an intern or as a staff member, but sign with the senator's name. So people will receive the email and the letter and think it was the senator that sent it. And it's not something you just wake up and start doing. You have to study how is it that she writes, right? How is what concerns, I, basically what are you have to make. There's a lot of research that needs to happen. I think that class helped me understand how to imitate people's styles of writing because she had an exact assignment, which was imitate a certain writer's style of writing. And there were techniques that were given to us. And I used the same techniques there, and it worked. That that is one of the instances where yes, actually what I learned in this in the classroom is useful for me. At this time, I was like, yes, finally.
That's great to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for everything that you shared in today's session. And I want to thank everyone who had the questions sent to me. And yes, it was great speaking with you. And it was great to see everybody who came for GEM today. And I hope to see you next Friday for our last GEM session. So to all the GEM members, next Friday is our last GEM session. So I hope to see you there. And again, thank you for this great session today. And I hope
Thank you for
everybody
having me.
enjoys. Yeah, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. And yes, as always, I've enjoyed this and I hope you did too. Thank you.